The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed inside it. The walls were made of living crystal that sang soft songs. 12 ancient races sat in their floating chairs. Looking down at anyone who came to speak, Admiral Kong Tai-ho stood alone on the speaker's platform. He was a tall man, with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind him, a hologram showed images of burning cities and crying children. These were the human colonies on the edge of known space. The Veluxi Empire had decided to take them. "We asked the Council for help," Tai-ho said. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. "The Veluxi have no right to our worlds. 18 million humans live in those colonies. They are farmers, teachers, and children. They have done nothing wrong." The Veluxi ambassador floated forward in his chair. His name was Gorath, and he was beautiful in a terrible way. His body was made of living crystal, purple and sharp. When he moved, he made sounds like breaking glass. "Worlds are rich in minerals," Gorath said. "The Veluxi Empire needs them. Your people will be moved to work camps. They should be grateful. We are giving them purpose." Tai-ho felt his heart go cold. "You cannot do this. Those are our people, our families, and what will humanity do about it?" Gorath laughed. The sound hurt Tai-ho's ears. "You have no real fleet. You have no allies. You are the youngest race in the galaxy. You are children playing at civilization." Tai-ho looked around the great hall. The Torvani sat in their pools of warm water, saying nothing. The Makari rustled their fungal bodies, but did not speak. The other races looked away or whispered among themselves. No one would help. For 300 years, humanity had been part of the galactic community. They had smiled at every insult. They had bowed to every demand. They had been polite, kind, and peaceful. And this was their reward. Nothing. "Will no one speak for us?" Tai-ho asked. His voice echoed in the silence. Gorath laughed again. "Why would they? You are weak, human. You have always been weak. Your species is a joke. Everyone knows this." Tai-ho closed his eyes. He remembered his grandfather's stories about Earth, the wars, the fire, the endless struggle. He remembered what his grandfather had told him before he died. "We became kind because we chose to be kind. Never forget what we really are." Tai-ho opened his eyes. Something had changed in them. The tiredness was gone. In its place was something old and cold and very, very dangerous. "Yes," he said quietly. "Then there is nothing more to discuss." He turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps were the only sound in the great hall. At the door he stopped. "You have made a mistake," he said without turning around. "A very serious mistake. You have given humanity a reason to stop being kind." Gorath made a sound of disgust. "Is that a threat, little human?" Tai-ho finally turned. He smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "No, it is a promise, and I keep my promises." He left the hall. The door closed behind him with a soft sound. The council members looked at each other and laughed. What could the humans do? They were nothing. 3 days later, the Veluxi invasion fleet arrived at Colony 7. 200 warships filled the sky like metal stars. 50,000 soldiers prepared to land. The commander, a young Veluxi named Krath, expected to find terrified humans waiting to surrender. He found nothing. The cities were empty. The farms were abandoned. Every single human was gone. 18 million people had vanished in 48 hours. Krath checked his sensors again and again. This was impossible. Moving that many people that fast could not be done. The Veluxi needed months to evacuate a single city. The humans had emptied an entire planet in 2 days. Where did they go? His second officer asked. It does not matter, Krath said. Cowards run. This is what weak species do. Secure the planet and begin mining operations. His soldiers spread across the empty world. They walked through silent streets and searched abandoned homes. Some of them laughed at the human things they found. Pictures of families, children's toys, books with strange symbols. None of them noticed the small devices hidden in every building. None of them saw the satellites moving into position above the planet. None of them understood that they had walked into a trap, far away in a dark room on a secret station. A young officer named Lee Jun-ho watched everything through hidden cameras. He was 32 years old. He had been born on Colony 7. His parents, his sister, his 2 nephews had lived there until 3 days ago. Now they were safe. Now it was time for the second part of the plan. Junho looked at the soldiers laughing at his family's photographs. He felt something hot and sharp rise in his chest. Not anger. Something older. Something that humans had carried in their blood since the first of them picked up a stone and learned that it could be a weapon. "Commander Park," he said into his communicator. "The Veluxi are in position. All forces have landed." Fleet Commander Park Sora was a small woman with short black hair and eyes like winter ice. She had waited 30 years for this moment. Every human had waited for this moment, even if they did not know it. "Good," she said. "Begin Operation Homecoming. Across the galaxy, in hidden bases and secret shipyards, lights began to turn on. Engines that had slept for decades started to wake up. 3,000 warships built in silence and darkness, prepared for war. The humans had played the fool for 300 years. They had smiled at insults. They had accepted every humiliation, and in secret they had built something terrible. Now the galaxy would learn what humanity really was. Not children. Not jokes. Not weak little creatures to be pushed around. They were the survivors of a death world. They were the children of endless war. They were the species that had split the atom and walked on their moon and refused to die. No matter how hard the universe tried to kill them, and they were very, very angry. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, no one was laughing anymore. They had received a message from Colony 7, just 6 words. Humanity is awake. God help you. The war had begun. Deep beneath the mountains of New Seoul, there was a room that did not exist on any map. The walls were made of stone and metal, 10 meters thick. No signal could enter or leave without permission. This was the war room, and it had been waiting for 200 years. Fleet Commander Park Sora stood at the center of a circle of holographic displays. Around her stood the greatest military minds humanity had ever produced. They wore simple gray uniforms with no medals or decorations. They did not need medals. Everyone in this room had earned their place through blood and sacrifice. "Show me the fleet," Sora said. The main display changed. Stars appeared, then dots of blue light. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. Hidden in asteroid belts, sleeping in the dark spaces between solar systems, waiting in places no one had ever thought to look. 3,200 warships, said General Yundeho. He was an old man with a face like carved stone. 72 carriers. 400 destroyers. The rest are cruisers and support vessels. All fully armed. All ready to fight, Sora nodded slowly. She had known the numbers, but seeing them made her heart beat faster. For 2 centuries, humanity had pretended to be weak. They had built tiny civilian ships for the galaxy to see. And in secret, they had built this. The weapons. She asked. A young woman stepped forward. Her name was Choi Yuna, and she was the head of weapons research. She looked like a university student, small and quiet with round glasses. But her eyes held something dangerous. We have things the galaxy has never seen, Yuna said. Gravity cannons that can crush a ship into a ball the size of a fist. Nanite swarms that eat metal and electronics. Phase torpedoes that move through other dimensions to reach their targets. And more. Much more. Sora smiled. It was a cold smile like ice forming on a lake. Good. What about ground forces? Another officer stepped forward. Colonel Kim Jae-in was a thick man with scars on his hands and face. He had spent 20 years training soldiers in secret bases on dead moons. 2 million soldiers ready for immediate action, he said. All trained since childhood. All equipped with power armor and advanced weapons. And they are angry, Commander. Very angry. Everyone in the room understood why. The Veluxi had taken human colonies before, in small numbers. People had disappeared. Families had been broken. The galaxy called these incidents unfortunate but unavoidable. Humanity had called them something else. Reason so it turned to the main display. It showed Colony 7 now occupied by Veluxy forces. 50,000 enemy soldiers walked through human cities, touching human things, laughing at human memories. "Captain Lee," she said, "are you ready?" The display flickered, and a face appeared. Lee Junho looked tired, but his eyes were bright. Behind him, Sora could see the bridge of a warship. Lights blinked, and officers moved quickly at their stations. "Fleet 1 is in position," Junho said. 100 ships. We are 12 hours from Colony 7 at full speed. The enemy has 200 ships, Sora reminded him. John smiled. "I know, I was worried this would be too easy." Sora almost laughed. Junho was like all the young officers. Hungry, eager, ready to show the galaxy what humans could do. She understood that hunger. She had felt it herself, long ago. "You have permission to engage," she said. "Operation Homecoming is active. Bring our people's home back to us." "Yes, Commander." Junho's face hardened. "And the Veluxy soldiers?" Sora thought about it for exactly 1 second. "And no surrender. No prisoners. They came to enslave our families. Show them what that costs." The display went dark. Junho was already moving, already giving orders, already beginning the attack that would change everything. Sora turned to face her officers. "This is the moment we have waited for. 200 years of hiding. 200 years of being laughed at. 200 years of pretending to be something we are not. Tonight it ends." She walked to the main display and touched it with her hand. The image changed to show Earth, beautiful and blue, hanging in the darkness of space. Our ancestors survived ice ages and plagues. They survived world wars and nuclear fire. They fought and bled and died for thousands of years, and they never gave up. Never. That is who we are. That is what we are. And tonight, the galaxy will remember. The officers stood straighter. Their eyes burned with something old and powerful. Pride, purpose. The knowledge that they were part of something bigger than themselves. "Go to your posts," Sora said. "The war begins now." 12 hours later. Junho's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel above Colony 7. The Veluxy commander. Krath saw them appear on his sensors and felt a moment of confusion. Then he felt fear. The human ships were nothing like the small civilian vessels the galaxy knew. They were massive, dark, and covered with weapons. They moved in perfect formation, like predators circling wounded prey. "All ships, attack," Krath ordered. "Destroy them." The Veluxy fleet surged forward. 200 warships against 100. The numbers favored them. The math was simple. The math was wrong. The first human weapon was a gravity cannon. It fired a beam of pure force that grabbed a Veluxy cruiser and crushed it like a paper cup. The ship, 3 kilometers long, became a ball of metal the size of a house. Everyone inside died instantly. The Veluxy fleet hesitated. That hesitation cost them. Junho's voice came through every speaker. "All ships, weapons free. Show them what we are." The human fleet opened fire. Gravity cannons tore ships apart. Nanot swarms crossed the empty space and began eating through Veluxy hulls. Phase torpedoes appeared inside enemy ships, bypassing shields completely. Krath watched his fleet die. Ship after ship vanished from his display. His officers screamed reports that made no sense. Weapons that should not exist. Attacks that could not be stopped. Enemies that felt no fear. "Retreat." Krath finally ordered. "All ships retreat." But there was nowhere to go. The human fleet had surrounded them. Junho had positioned his ships perfectly, cutting off every escape route. The Veluxy were trapped. The battle lasted for hours. When it ended, not a single Veluxy ship remained. 200 warships became floating wreckage. Thousands of Veluxy soldiers died in the cold vacuum of space. Junho lost 7 ships. On the planet below, the human ground forces arrived. They dropped from the sky in metal pods, landing in the empty cities that had once been their homes. The Veluxi soldiers tried to fight. They were the elite warriors of an empire that had conquered 40 star systems. They lasted less than an hour. The human soldiers moved through the cities like ghosts. They did not speak. They did not hesitate. They killed with terrible efficiency, clearing building after building, street after street. The Veluxi had never faced anything like them. By dawn, Colony 7 was free. The human flag rose over the capital city. The bodies of Veluxi soldiers lay in the streets. A message to anyone who might think of trying again. Gunho stood on the bridge of his ship and looked down at the planet. His home? His family's home. Safe again. He opened a channel to the Galactic Council and sent a simple message. Colony 7 has been liberated. Humanity is coming home, and we are not asking permission. Across the galaxy, billions of beings heard those words and felt something they had never felt before when thinking about humans. Fear. The Galactic Council had never been so quiet. The Great Hall, which usually buzzed with arguments and deals, was silent. The 12 elder races sat in their floating chairs and stared at the holographic display in the center of the room. It showed Colony 7. It showed the wreckage of 200 Veluxi warships. It showed human flags flying over cities that should have been enslaved. Ambassador Gorath stood on the speaker's platform, his crystal body shaking with rage. This is an act of war. He screamed, "The humans have attacked the Veluxi Empire. They must be punished. They must be destroyed." "How?" asked the Torvani ambassador. He was a large creature covered in wet scales, and his voice was tired. "You sent 200 ships. The humans sent 100. You lost everything." "They lost almost nothing. A mistake," Gorath insisted. "A lucky strike. The humans are weak. Everyone knows this." "Perhaps," said a new voice, "it is time you learned the truth." Everyone turned. A human woman walked into the Great Hall. She was small, with short dark hair and a simple gray uniform. Her name was Yoon Hannah, and she was the Director of Human Intelligence Services. She smiled politely as she stepped onto the speaker's platform. "The Council recognizes the human representative," the Makari elder said. Its fungal body rustled with nervousness. "Thank you," Hannah said. Her voice was soft and pleasant. "I am here to explain some things that the galaxy has misunderstood for a very long time." She touched a control on her wrist. The holographic display changed. It showed a small blue planet alone in the darkness of space. "This is Earth," Hannah said. "Our home world. For 300 years, we have told you it is a peaceful place. A gentle world." We lied. The display changed again. It showed fire and smoke. Cities burning. Armies fighting. Bombs falling from the sky. "Earth is what scientists call a death world," Hannah continued. "Everything on our planet tries to kill us. Predators with teeth and claws. Tiny creatures that cause disease. The weather itself can destroy cities. We evolved in a place of constant danger and death." The council members shifted uncomfortably. They had heard of death worlds before. Most intelligent species avoided them. "Your species," Hannah said, looking around the room, "evolved on gentle worlds. You had plenty of food. Your climates were stable. You learned cooperation because survival was easy. You never needed to fight to live." She paused. "We did. Every single day, we had to fight. Against the planet. Against the animals. Against each other. We became very, very good at fighting." The display showed human history. Not the sanitized version that humanity had shared with the galaxy, but the real history. The wars that killed millions. The weapons that could destroy entire cities. The endless cycle of violence that had shaped humanity since the beginning. Gorath laughed nervously. "This is ancient history. You are civilized now. You are peaceful." Hannah turned to look at him. Her smile did not change, but something in her eyes made him step back. "We became peaceful because we chose to," she said. "Because we looked at what we were capable of, and we were horrified. We decided to be better. We decided to be kind. But the violence is still there. it never left. It is in our blood, in our bones, in every part of who we are. She touched her wrist again. The display showed human soldiers. Not the polite diplomats the galaxy knew, but warriors. Men and women with hard eyes and scarred bodies, machines of war that looked like nightmares made real. For 200 years, we hid our true nature, Hannah said. We built our real fleet in secret. We trained our real soldiers in hidden places. We let you laugh at us and mock us and treat us like children. And we waited. Why? The Torvani ambassador asked. 'Cause we hoped we would never need to use what we had built. Hannah's voice became sad. We wanted to believe the galaxy would accept us, that you would treat us fairly, that you would see us as equals. She looked at Goreth. Instead, you decided to enslave our families. You decided to take our children and put them in work camps. You made us remember what we really are. Goreth's crystal body rang with fear. You cannot threaten us. We will unite against you. Every race in the galaxy will do nothing, Hannah interrupted. Her voice was still soft, still pleasant, but now it carried weight. Because while you were busy mocking us, we were learning. We studied all of you. We found your weaknesses. She turned to face the council. The Veluxi are vulnerable to certain sound frequencies. We can shatter your bodies with speakers. The Torvani cannot survive temperatures above 40 degrees. We can boil your oceans. The Makari depend on a single fungal network that connects all of you. We can poison it and kill your entire species in a week. A silence. Complete and total silence. We know how to destroy every race in this room, Hannah said. We have had plans ready for 2 centuries. Not because we want to use them, but because we knew this day might come. The day when you pushed us too far. She stepped closer to Goreth. He flinched away from her, this small, human woman, like she was a monster. Here is what will happen now, Hannah said. You will return every human you have taken. Every man, woman, and child. You will leave our colonies alone. You will never threaten us again. If you do these things, the war ends today. Goreth tried to stand tall. And if we refuse, Hannah smiled. It was not a nice smile. Then we will do what we have always done when threatened. We will fight. And we will not stop until our enemies cannot fight anymore. She turned and walked toward the exit. At the door, she paused and looked back at the council. For 300 years, you called us weak. You were wrong. We are not weak. We are Patty. NT. There is a very important difference. The weak accept what happens to them. The patient wait for the right moment to act. She looked at each council member in turn. You gave us that moment. You woke the sleeping giant. Now you will have to live with the consequences. The door closed behind her. For a long time no one spoke. Then Gorath screamed orders. The Veluxi would not surrender. They would gather allies. They would build a fleet so large that the humans would be crushed like insects. 6 races agreed to join them. Together, they would assemble 10,000 warships. Together, they would teach humanity its place in her ship. Heading back to human space, Hannah received reports of the gathering fleet. She read them calmly and sent a single message to Fleet Commander Sora. They have chosen war. Prepare for Phase 2. Sora read the message and smiled. She had hoped the galaxy would choose peace, but she had planned for war. The humans always planned for war. It was the only lesson their death. The world had taught them well. The Veluxi called it the Grand Alliance. 6 races united against humanity. 10,000 warships from across the galaxy gathered at the Hellion Rift, a place where space itself was twisted and strange. They believed their numbers would be enough. They believed the humans could not stand. Against such power, they were about to learn how wrong they were. Fleet. Admiral Choi Minji stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, the largest warship humanity had ever built. She was 60 years old, with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that had seen too much death. Behind her, officers worked at their stations, preparing for the battle that would decide everything. Enemy fleet confirmed, Lieutenant Bei Sun-woo reported. He was young and nervous, his hands moving quickly over his display. 10,200 ships. 6 different species. They are forming attack formation. Mingy nodded slowly. And our fleet? 3,000 ships, Admiral. All in position. Good. Mingy allowed herself a small smile. They outnumber us 3-1. This should be interesting. Captain Park Jimin stood beside her, a veteran of dozens of battles. Admiral, some of the younger officers are worried about the numbers. They should not be, Mingy said. Numbers mean nothing in war. What matters is will. What matters is who wants to win more. And no one in the galaxy wants to win more than us. She touched a button on her chair. Her voice went out to every ship in the human fleet. This is Admiral Choi. The enemy is in front of us. They think they can defeat us with numbers. They think we will break and run. They do not know us. She paused, letting her words sink in. We are the children of Earth. We survived ice and fire and war. We survived everything our planet threw at us, and we came out stronger. These enemies are not stronger than our home world. They are not stronger than us. Her voice hardened. Today we teach the galaxy a lesson they will never forget. Today we show them what it means to threaten human families. Today we make them pay for every insult, every laugh, every moment they look down at us. Are you ready? Across 3,000 ships, human soldiers and officers answered as one voice. Ready. Mingy sat back in her chair. Then let us begin. All ships attack. The human fleet moved forward like a single organism. No hesitation. No fear. Just cold, calculated precision. The Grand Alliance expected the humans to be careful, defensive, fighting to survive. Instead, the humans attacked directly. Driving straight into the heart of the enemy formation, the Veluxy commanders screamed orders. Fire. Destroy them. 10,000 ships opened fire. Space itself seemed to burn with energy weapons and missiles. Any normal fleet would have been destroyed in seconds. The human ships did not stop. Their shields held against attacks that should have shattered them. Their weapons fired back with terrible accuracy. The gravity cannons found their targets, crushing ships into twisted metal. The nanite swarms spread from ship to ship, eating through holes like fire through paper. But the real surprise came when the fleets met at close range. Human Marines began boarding enemy ships. They cut through holes and fought their way inside, killing everyone they found. They did not ask for surrender. They did not take prisoners. They simply killed. With guns and knives and sometimes their bare hands, Sergeant Kim Woojin led a team of 12 soldiers onto a Veluxy battleship. The ship had 500 enemy soldiers on board. It did not matter. Woojin was a large man with a shaved head and arms covered in scars. He had been fighting since he was 16 years old. He had lost his mother and brother when the Veluxy raided a human colony 20 years ago. He had been waiting a long time for this moment. Stay close, he told his team. Kill everything that moves. They moved through the ship like ghosts. The Veluxy soldiers were bigger, stronger, made of living crystal that could cut through metal. It did not help them. Woojin had studied the Veluxy for years. He knew their weaknesses. He knew exactly where to hit them to shatter their crystal bodies. He moved through them like a farmer cutting wheat, his weapons finding weak points again and again. His soldiers followed, just as deadly, just as fast. They cleared room after room, leaving nothing alive behind them. A young Veluxy soldier tried to surrender. He threw down his weapon and raised his hands, making the universal sign for peace. Woojin did not stop. His blade found the weak point in the soldier's neck. The crystal body fell in pieces. Sergeant, one of his soldiers, said quietly. He was surrendering. They did not accept surrender when they raided my colony, Woojin replied. His voice was flat, empty. They killed my mother while she begged for her life. They took my brother and worked him to death in their minds. No surrender. Not today. Not ever. They continued through the ship. By the time they reached the bridge, Woojin's armor was cracked and burned. He had 17 separate wounds. His soldiers had lost 3 of their number, but the ship was theirs. Woojin sat down on the bridge, surrounded by shattered Veluxy bodies, and pulled out a ration bar. He began eating calmly while his remaining soldiers secured the ship. "Sergeant," the medic said, looking at his wounds. "How are you still alive?" Wu Jin chewed slowly. "Spite. I am too angry to die." The medic stared at him. Then she laughed a little crazily. "That is not how biology works. Tell that to the Veloxi." Wu Jin finished his ration bar and stood up. "Come, there are more ships to take." Across the battlefield, the same story repeated again and again. Human soldiers boarded enemy ships and fought with a ferocity that made the elder races freeze in terror. The aliens had never seen anything like it. They had never faced a species that simply refused to stop fighting. No matter how wounded, no matter how outnumbered, the Grand Alliance began to break. Ships started to retreat, abandoning their allies. The formation collapsed into chaos. Admiral Minji watched the enemy fleet die on her display. She felt no joy, no satisfaction, just a cold certainty that this was necessary, that this was what the galaxy had made them do. Admiral Sunwoo said, "The enemy flagship is trying to escape." Minji nodded. "Do not let it. I want their commander alive. I want him to tell the others what he saw here." 3 human ships chased the flagship down. They disabled its engines and captured it without destroying it. The Veluxi commander was dragged from his bridge and brought before Minji in chains. He was broken, physically and mentally. His crystal body was cracked in a dozen places. His eyes were empty with shock. "You are beaten," Minji told him. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your allies have fled. Do you understand what has happened here?" The commander looked at her with horror. "You are monsters." "No," Minji said quietly. "We are humans. We are the species you thought was weak. We are the species you laughed at and mocked and threatened. We are the species that survived a death world and came to the stars. And we are done being nice." She leaned closer. "You will go back to the Galactic Council. You will tell them what you saw. You will tell them that we can destroy them all anytime we choose. And you will tell them that we choose not to. Not yet. Because unlike you, we know how to show mercy." She stepped back. "But if anyone threatens our people again, there will be no mercy. No negotiation. No survival. We will end you. All of you, forever." The commander was taken away. He would deliver his message. He would tell the galaxy what he had witnessed. The Battle of Hellion Rift lasted 6 hours. The Grand Alliance lost 8,000 ships. Humanity lost 400. Across the galaxy, billions of beings heard the news and felt true fear for the first time. The humans were not weak. The humans had never been weak. They had been waiting, watching, preparing, and now they were awake. The war lasted 8 months. In that time, humanity took apart the Veluxi Empire piece by piece. They freed every human prisoner. They liberated every slave regardless of species. They destroyed military bases and shipyards, weapons factories, and command centers. And then, when they had won completely, they stopped. Admiral Kong Tai-ho stood before the Galactic Council one last time. He was more tired than he had ever been. He had not slept properly in months. He had ordered the deaths of millions. He had watched his people become the warriors they had always tried not to be. Behind him stood the others. Commander Park Sora, whose fleets had won every battle. Captain Lee Junho, who had liberated Colony 7. Director Yoon Hana, whose plans had guided everything. Admiral Choi Mingi, who had broken the Grand Alliance. And Sergeant Kim Woo-jin, whose violence had become legendary even among humans. They stood together, 6 people who had changed the galaxy forever. "The war is over," Tai-ho announced. His voice echoed in the silent hall. "We have taken back what was ours. We have freed those who were enslaved. The Veluxi Empire no longer has the power to threaten anyone." He paused and looked around at the council members. They stared back at him with fear and confusion and something else. Something that might have been respect. "Could continue," Tai-ho said. "We could take your worlds. We could rule this galaxy. We have the power to do it. After what you did to us, many would say we have the right." The Torvani ambassador leaned forward. "Then why do you not? Taiho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired. Because that is not who we want to be. We are capable of terrible things. We have proven that. But capability is not destiny. We choose to be more than our worst impulses. We always have. He looked at Wu Jin, whose hands still showed scars from the war. My soldiers killed without mercy. They fought like the warriors our ancestors were. I ordered them to do this. I will live with that weight for the rest of my life. He turned back to the council. But we do not want to be that. We want to be artists and scientists and teachers. We want to build things, not destroy them. We want to explore the stars with wonder, not with weapons. Commander Sora stepped forward. The humans you knew before were not fake. That kindness, that patience, that desire for peace, that was real. It is who we want to be. But it is a choice we make every day. A choice that can be taken away if you push us too far. Director Hannah spoke next. We are going to return to our borders now. We will rebuild our colonies. We will heal our wounds. We will try to become the peaceful species we pretend to be. But we will not forget what happened here. Admiral Minji's voice was hard. And we will not forgive. Not completely. Not yet. Trust must be earned again over many years, through actions, not words. Finally, Wu Jin spoke. His voice was rough, like stones grinding together. I killed many enemies in this war. Some of them begged for their lives. I did not listen. I did what I had to do to protect my people. He looked directly at Goroth, who sat broken and diminished in his floating chair. But I do not enjoy killing. I am tired of killing. I want to go home and see my father and eat my grandmother's cooking and forget what I have done. That is what humans want. Peace, quiet, family. Give us those things, and we will give them to you. Taiho nodded slowly. You have heard us. Now hear this, and never forget it. We showed you mercy because we chose to, not because we had to. If you ever threaten our people again, we will not make that choice a second time. He turned and walked toward the exit. The others followed him. At the door, he paused and looked back one last time. We are going home now. Do not follow us. Do not test us. And maybe in 100 years or 1,000, we can try again to be friends. But for now, leave us alone. The door closed behind them with a soft sound. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. No one laughed at the humans anymore. No one mocked them, or dismissed them, or treated them as children. They feared them. Yes. But more than that, they respected them. The humans had had the power to destroy everything, and they had chosen not to. That choice spoke louder than any weapon. 50 years passed, the galaxy changed slowly. Trade resumed. Borders were reopened. The Veluxi, humbled and reduced, rebuilt their civilization with new humility. The other races learned to speak of humans with careful respect. A young Veluxi historian named Thera decided to do something no one from her species had done since the war. She traveled to Earth. She wanted to understand the creatures who had destroyed her people's empire and then simply walked away. She landed in New Sol, a city that blended ancient temples with towering metal buildings. She expected to find soldiers everywhere, warriors practicing for the next war. Weapons on display? Instead, she found children playing in parks, artists painting pictures of flowers, students arguing about poetry and music, families eating together in small restaurants. She walked through the city for hours, more confused with every step. These people had nearly destroyed her species. How could they be so peaceful? She found Professor Han Nari at the university. Nari was an old woman with gentle eyes and white hair. She taught galactic history to young humans who would never know war. She invited Thera to her office for tea. I do not understand, Thera finally admitted. You are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. How can you be so calm? So kind? So normal? Nari smiled and poured tea into a small cup. Because we know what we are. We live with our nature every day. The violence is always there, beneath the surface. Every human carries it in their heart. She handed the cup to Thera. But we build our societies to contain it. We create art and music and love to remind ourselves why we choose not to destroy. We pour our passion into building things instead of breaking them. Era sipped the tea. It was warm and fragrant, and somehow comforting. Other species do not have to struggle like this. No, they do not. Nari sat down across from her. That is why they do not understand us. We are not naturally peaceful. Peace for humans is an achievement. It is something we have to work for every single day. She looked out the window at the city below. Children were laughing somewhere. A musician was playing a beautiful melody on a string instrument. Everything seemed so normal, so safe. Look at the stars, Nari said softly, and we see a chance to become better than we were. Other species see resources or territory or power. We see hope. Hope that maybe, if we try hard enough, we can be something more than monsters. Thera thought about this for a long time. And if someone threatens you again? If another species tries to do what we did? Nari's smile did not change, but something very old and very cold moved behind her gentle eyes. For just a moment, Thera saw the warrior that lived inside every human, sleeping but never gone. Then we stop dreaming, Nari said quietly, and we remember what we really are. Thera felt a chill run through her crystal body. She understood now. The humans were not weak or strong, peaceful or violent. They were both, always at the same time. They were creatures of contradiction, capable of great love and terrible destruction. Choosing every moment which one to be, that was why they were so dangerous. That was why no one should ever threaten them. Because the kindness was real, but it was a mask worn over something ancient and terrible. And if you made them take off that mask, you would face something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that knew exactly how to destroy everything and chose not to until you gave them a reason to change their mind. Thera finished her tea and stood to leave. At the door, she paused. "Thank you," she said. "I think I understand now." Nari nodded, her eyes warm again. "Come back anytime. We do enjoy visitors. Just remember to be kind. We are very good at returning what we receive." Thera left Earth that day with a new understanding. She would spend the rest of her life teaching others what she had learned. The humans were not enemies to be feared. They were neighbors to be respected. And if you treated them with kindness, they would respond with kindness. But if you ever forgot what they really were, you would learn the same lesson. The galaxy had learned 50 years before. Humanity was not dangerous because of what they could do. They were dangerous because they knew exactly what they were, and they fought every day to be something better. That was their gift, and that was their curse, and the galaxy would never, ever forget it.